The Hindu Editorial. Ayes and nays. Higher turnout is worth striving for, but not without sufficient safeguards. Given the regional variations in demographic trends and economic opportunities, India has a high rate of migration, which doubled in the census decade of 2001 to 2011. Migrants often see their political and economic rights compromised at their place of origin and residence. The Election Commission of India has now proposed a mechanism to facilitate remote voting for domestic migrants. The remote electronic voting machine prototype can be used for up to 72 constituencies simultaneously from a single remote polling booth. The ECI has invited political parties for a demonstration of the prototype on January 16. A concept note by the Commission takes into account the legal, operational, administrative, and technological challenges at hand. Voter participation is comparatively high in India, yet in 2019, 1 in 3 voters did not turn up. Going by the 2017 economic survey, there are around 14 crore internal migrants in the country, and they have to cross many hurdles to be able to vote. Anything that advances their rights must be welcome, but a hurried move will only do more damage to the integrity of the electoral process, which many fear is eroding, and for valid reasons. The ECI's recent conduct, including in the 2022 Gujarat Assembly elections, has been less than reassuring. The ECI proposes to have remote voting for migrants as early as this year. While there is no technical basis for allegations of fraud in the current single constituency non-network EVMs, public, tr- public trust in them has never been lower than it is today. Public trust is the only strength of any electoral process. With EVMs, the voter has no way to see whether the vote is recorded as it is cast. The ECI's ambitious plan comes against this backdrop of public skepticism about its own impartiality and, less justifiably, about the reliability of the EVMs. The proposed plan will add more questions to the mix, including some fundamental ones such as about the correlation between citizenship and territoriality. In an era of unprecedented human mobility, the idea of portable voting rights is worth considering, but it will have far reaching ramifications that should be accounted for. Defining a migrant who is eligible to vote remotely is going to be controversial. For instance, when does a migrant at a place become a resident? Even the ECA had expressed doubts about the practicality of remote voting rights for migrants in the past. Meanwhile, there is also an active demand for voting rights for non resident Indians. Higher turnout is worth striving for, but none without sufficient safeguards. Second editorial, a broken formula. Some small saving schemes have been unreasonably left out of the rate hikes. Last Friday, the government increased the returns on some small saving schemes for the first quarter of 2023 by 20 basis points to 110 basis points, or 0.2 to 1.1 percentage points. These will kick in for 8 of the 12 small saving schemes, where small investors park their household surpluses through banks and post offices. A similar selective hike was effected for the previous quarter too, after a long 27-month pause in small savings rates, but the range was minimal at 10 to 30 basis points and only applied on 5 schemes. In the latest review, the highest rate hike of 1.1 percentage points has been granted only for 1, 2, and 3-year time deposits. For other schemes, the increase is more nominal, 40 basis points for senior citizens and monthly income schemes, and just 20 basis points for the National Savings Certificate and Kisan Vikas Patra. Returns on the popular long-term savings avenue, the Public Provident Fund, have been left unchanged at 7.1%, prevailing since April 2020, when they were slashed from 7.9% at the onset of the pandemic. Neither is there relief for those investing in the Sukanya Samriddhi account scheme launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in January 2015 to encourage families to invest in the education of girl children and save for their marriage expenses under the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign. For the October to December quarter, The Reserve Bank of India had estimated that the returns on the PPF should have been 7.72% and the Sukanya Samriddhi scheme at 8.22%. Having adopted a formula-based approach to resetting a small saving rates every quarter since 2016, the government must not resort to selective implementation. There has been no perceptible easing of yields on government securities to which these returns are supposed to be linked. In the last quarter of 2022, perhaps the decision to offer the highest gains for shorter tenure deposits is driven by the government's debt management planning, but the status quo on PPF and other schemes is not fair to the risk averse middle class. Investment in PPF, for instance, are in any case capped at 1.5 lakh rupees a year, and overall deposits are far lower than bank deposits. If boosting the if boosting the latter to ensure healthy credit availability for industry was a concern. Inflation in general has been elevated since the 2020 rate cuts and was above the 6% tolerance threshold through most of 2022, accompanied by sharp interest hikes. Households have also grappled with income losses and higher health expenses through the past 2.5 years and deserve better. Thank you.